Now, when you think of militant groups across sub-Saharan Africa, you may think of those who are religious fanatics. But a new report has revealed that most people join these groups in the hope of employment. The UN Development Programme spoke to 1,000 former fighters in several countries, including Burkina Faso, Cameroon and Nigeria. Worldwide deaths from terrorism have declined in the last 5 years, but in sub-Saharan Africa, the situation is going the opposite way, making it the new global epicenter of attacks. With more on this, I'm joined by Arise international correspondent Faith Orr. Good to see you, Faith. So this new UN study pouring light on why people are flocking to join radical organizations, and perhaps surprisingly, religion is not the main driver. So what is driving people to become extremists? Tell us more about this report.
It's a lack of jobs, Charles. It's quite simple. And it's not the first time that we've heard this, but it is shocking to see just how significant this is a factor in it. You know, we've heard over a number of years that people will join these groups because they simply have no other financial option. They have no work, they have no way to provide for their families, and this seems like the best way out. But it is surprising that religious ideals are nowhere near the top of that. We do have the statistics that I would like to show some viewers. So if we just take a look at this, we can see that 25% of people join up because they don't have a job. 22% will then sign up with their family or friends, which seems like an odd way of putting it. And then 17% cite their religious beliefs. So it's remarkable that really religious beliefs are down there in third place for the reasons that people join up. And one of the other things that struck me was that almost half of the people spoken to said they had reached a tipping point, and that was why they joined up. And that was because they'd reached a tipping point with the government. Security forces had either killed or arrested their family members, and they felt like they were left with no option.
And this is so important because the impact that extremism is having on certain parts of the African continent, including Nigeria, is almost immeasurable, isn't it?
I mean, it has huge, huge damage, you know, entire villages burned down. And actually one of the tactics that these groups use, which again is quite an interesting way that they take communities away from central government, is that they kill village chiefs, and that cuts off the sort of direct contact. And they've really made this a thing that they do in the past few years. They've killed hundreds of them across Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Cameroon. And it just has this huge impact. It leaves, you know, families devastated, children without education, people without homes. Hunger is a huge driver of this conflict as well. We know in places like Somalia where, you know, climate change is causing hunger. Hunger then causes more conflict. Huge impact on sub-Saharan Africa, absolutely.
And of course, on the one hand, they're saying that there needs to be investment in things like education. On the other hand, schools are being attacked in many areas, and the education is getting harder and harder to find in those areas that are being hit by extremist groups. I mean, in northeast Nigeria, for example, Boko Haram means no Western education, which is, you know, which just makes it impossible, doesn't it?
Exactly. And educational levels among the recruits to these groups, like, you know, the Al-Qaeda offshoots, the ISIS offshoots, Boko Haram, education levels are very, very low. In fact, just one extra year of schooling reduces the chance that someone will join a group by 13%. So education is hugely important, but of course it is this sort of cycle. Well, they attack the schools close, they can't reopen. Where does the education come from? I mean, even the Safe Schools initiative that was launched in Nigeria really failed to tackle this at all. So there is that problem, and it's not just education, but it's health, it's all sort of, you know, the ways to help people when they're young, child welfare, trying to provide people with enough food, enough education, and they won't feel that it's necessary to join these groups. But of course, it's very difficult to do when these groups are rampaging through these areas. And it is all about money, and these groups pay much better than a lot of people could find in any other work. And it's, you know, it's much easier if this group shows up to your door. Well, we'll offer you this amount, come and join us. And of course, that's not to say that it's all voluntary. They do forcibly recruit people as well and forcibly kidnap, and we know that. But for the voluntary recruits, it is very much about the cash.
Very interesting report. Faith, thanks very much indeed. Faith Orr, Arise international correspondent there. Now, the Nigerian Human Rights Commission has started an investigation into reports that the Nigerian army ran a secret program of forced abortions on thousands of women and girls after they were freed from the captivity of Islamic insurgents in the north of the country. The accusations of widespread abuse were laid out in a detailed investigation by Reuters, the international news agency, in December last year, and have been denied by senior military officials. Some of the alleged victims have been giving evidence to the Commission today in order to protect the victims' identities. The testimony you're about to hear is being voiced by actors.
Gave us injections. I didn't even know I was pregnant. The injection they gave me, I lost the pregnancy. I felt like I needed to pee, so I went outside towards the stream, away from the building. I squatted down, and then blood just started coming out. Turns out it was the pregnancy, but I didn't know. I came back and told them how I was feeling, but still I didn't know. They told us they would give us an injection, but they didn't tell us what it was. But they said it was even better it's aborted because it's a Boko Haram child.
There are those who are given pills. There are those who, they open their thighs and they put something in there and twist it, like those things butchers use, like scissors. They push it inside and twist it. You'll see her scream as they're moving it inside of her. Then they'll tell her to get up, and that's it.
When I came out of the bush, it's when they brought us back to their military camp. I saw the rashes all over our bodies. We were sick. They came and told me they would give me an injection. They gave me an injection, and when they did that, I lost the pregnancy. I was ill, and I was bleeding so much.